you guys, obviously a dating platform for the LGBTQ plus community, more than 15 million average monthly active users. But you guys have also been very active when it comes to an equal society, human rights, health, and safety for the community. It feels like, too, on that, you guys have been working to beef up your presence when it comes to Washington, D.C. and lawmakers who make policy. So tell us about your mission, your initiatives, and why this party, the first one, connected and around the White House Correspondents Dinner.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Great to speak to you. We only hired our first person in DC about a year ago and have been definitely, as you called, beefing up presence in Washington. We don't have a lot of company-specific issues that we need to deal with, but our users have a lot of issues that we believe we can advocate for. Probably the biggest thing that we spend a lot of time on is HIV treatment and prevention. We help protect funding for HIV testing, for example, through CDC. About 500,000 people have gotten a test through the Grindr app that the CDC pays for to test whether they have HIV or not. About a third of those people had never had an HIV test before. So last year, when that funding was in question, we were able to lobby members of Congress to ensure that that funding stayed. We also have been really actively advocating on behalf of PEPFAR, which is a U.S. Government plus worldwide program to ensure that there is HIV treatment medications for people in poor countries. And that's saved about 30 million people's lives, and continuing to fund that is really important, and we are really encouraged by how those discussions have gone. So those are some of the issues we focus on. Access to fertility care and surrogacy for gay couples is something that we also really care about and have spent efforts on as well. So those are the type of issues that we focus on. And this event is our coming out party. We've been in DC now actively working for about a year and a half, and this seemed like a really great opportunity to have a gathering. Grindr is really good at bringing people together, and we thought that having a party at the time when we, as the city is celebrating the First Amendment, was a really great time to do that. Gay rights would not have been possible without the First Amendment, and no country has been as good for gay people as America has been, quite frankly. And so America would not be possible without the First Amendment as well. Thank you, James Madison. And so celebrating it, I think, is something that is really awesome to do. And we're really psyched to host folks at the party tonight.
How would you characterize this administration when it comes to LGBTQ plus rights? I mean, some stuff comes to mind, and it's the fighting over the PEPFAR funding, certainly with the DOGE and the government efforts to reduce funding for some of those programs. There's the president wanting to remove the rainbow flag, the pride flag, from Stonewall here in New York. That's a protected property that marks a historic time for this community. How would you describe this administration's view when it comes to gay rights?
What I can say is that we've had really good engagement with folks on both sides of the aisle. Obviously, there are a lot of Democrats who are huge champions of gay rights, and we work very closely with them. But we've also found plenty of folks on the Republican side to work with as well, sometimes broadly and sometimes issue specific. I think, we tend to focus on the positive rather than negative, and we want to accomplish the positive things that we can. And I think it would, worth saying that there are some really powerful gay men in this administration who have been really good partners on things to us as well. Yes, there are challenges. There's no question about that. But I think the important thing is to be able to work through those challenges and focus on the things that you can actually accomplish that are positive. And so far, we've been, we've had a very good reception on both sides of it.
I should note that the U.S. has agreed to restore the pride flag at the Stonewall Monument as of earlier this month, following a court battle.
All right, so good to know. And this is what we've seen, certainly with this administration. Sometimes, a policy or an action or a comment comes out, and then sometimes there's some backpedaling. What I do wonder, George, you talk about good engagement on both sides of the political aisle. Who in particular, and I'm curious about in the president's inner circle, who you find is very receptive to hearing and listening to you guys?
I'm going to not mention any names. I don't think that's be the right thing for me to do. But we spend time with folks in the House, in the Senate, in the administration. We've been at the State Department more than once, for example, to talk about PEPFAR. We're probably the only group that shows up there to talk about PEPFAR, not asking for money, but rather saying, hey, how can we work with you to ensure that people who should be accessing these medications actually know how to get them? And we do have a very large platform that speaks to people that otherwise are really hard to reach in a lot of these countries, because Grindr is in 190 countries. And so in most places where PEPFAR is working, we have users, and many of those users should be on medications, whether it's preventative medications to not get HIV or HIV treatment medications, and we can access them. And so, hey, how can we work with you to make sure that that happens? And then, we work with folks all through the administration, whether it's at the Labor Department, HHS, Treasury, and, obviously with folks on the Hill as well. And the same was true, in the Biden administration. The first trip I ever did to DC was when Biden was president, and we had really good conversations with folks in that administration as well.
So, we just have about a minute or so left here, and I am curious about the business. Can you tell us, we would be remiss not to ask you, you're a publicly held company. I know you're getting ready to report earnings. Can you tell us about the new Grindr Edge subscription tier? We've seen reports of testing the U.S. at $500 a month for the subscription. What's been the user response? Just quickly, got about 40 seconds.
Yeah, I spoke about that in the shareholder letter last quarter. We are testing a new premium subscription tier. Grindr maintains a very robust free tier, but we have two subscription tiers right now. One's called Extra, one's called Unlimited, and this is a new one that we're building called Edge. It's bringing all our AI features, and we're creating a lot of new AI features together into one new tier. It's designed for power users, people who spend the most amount of time on the app. So it's not for everybody.
Right.
And the pricing on that, the $5.99 or $4.99, that's a Canadian dollars pricing.
Okay.
We're still in testing on what price we'll land at, but it will be more expensive.